Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of New Music Finds. This is where I like to collect together all the different things that I picked up over the past week, present it to you guys, maybe hopefully turn you on to something new. If nothing else, remind you about something great in your own catalog. I've got 6 things this week that I want to talk to you guys about. I know it's not as much as I normally have what is going on, but last week was the new Bruce Springsteen box set with 7 unreleased albums, so I had my hands pretty full, or I should say maybe my ears pretty full with that, so didn't quite need as much new music for this week, but 6 cool things to talk to you guys about. We'll dive into it here in just a bit. But before we start, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like. All those things do help support my channel. I greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by turning on notifications, you'll never miss an episode and stay up to date on really cool things like this with new music finds. So I always like to kick off with new releases, and this one here is a new release, but you guys are going to have to wait until July 25th for it. It is the brand new Enough's Enough Extra Cherries album, and this is their 18th studio album. It is the 5th one with Chips Enough, frontman there, taken over on lead vocals from Donnie V. So interestingly, we have an entirely new lineup of guys here, unlike the last 4 albums. And so we're kind of starting a new era, but I gotta say that if I hadn't read the liner notes, I really wouldn't notice. And I don't mean that to be a negative and or really a positive thing. It's just to say that this sounds like an Enough's Enough album. And I have done a full review of this. I'm going to leave a link in the description. You can check it out. But this album here has all the hallmarks of past Enough's Enough albums. Chips Enough still doing it right. I mean, he was half of the writing duo with Donnie V, and they would individually write their own stuff as well. And so we get another album worth of great stuff like that. But we also get a number of guests on here. I guess those are the extra cherries, right? So those guests on here are people like Steve Brown from Trickster, Neil Sean from Journey, Steve Stevens from Billy Idol Band, and just a whole bunch of other cool artists come on here and really flesh out the sound, making this album sound full and exciting and interesting all the way through. And I have to say, this is one of those ones where the band has gotten better and better with each release. And I'm referring to the last 4 and then including this 5 that are post Donnie V albums. I feel like each record has gotten better and better and better. And so that's what this is here. This is just another great Enough's Enough album. It's worth checking out. Put it on your list and check it out on July 25th when it comes out. I've got mine, but I am already enjoying it very much so. Now, a new one that came out this past Friday, which was July 4th, so not a lot of new releases, and that's kind of the other reason I don't have a lot here, is that with that being the 4th of July Independence Day here in the US holiday, I don't think a lot of bands wanted to release things. And so the stuff that was coming out wasn't things that I was interested in. And ultimately, a lot of stuff that did come out was archival and whatnot. And one of the things, I actually think this came out the week before, it just took a little bit to get to me, was Johnny Cougar, a biography. So a John Mellencamp album when he was Johnny Cougar. And this one here, actually, if I can grab it, we have the self-titled one, and I believe this one comes out after this, and some of the tracks are the same on here. But this one here goes back, and this has the first version of I Need a Lover on it. There's also a single version that's on here of that as well. But this is done really well. And it's a music on CD, which is why it looks the way it does, meaning it replicates the same sort of style that this is. When the Mercury label was reissuing all of those, I think this was part of it. I just didn't pick it up at the time, and now it's become one of those ones that's really hard to get. And so I saw Music on CD was reissuing it. I immediately put in my order for it, and I'm glad that I did. Cool album. It's a little bit heavier of a version of John Mellencamp than what would later become the more Heartland sound that we know him for. But this was interesting. It's got the band Street Heart backing him up here, and it has the song also Taxi Dancer on here, which would later turn up on this. So a couple songs from this one here would turn up on this, but ultimately we have a separate release here called A Biography. And just cool that Music on CD has gotten that one back in print for all of us John Cougar Mellencamp, and John Mellencamp fans, because that was the arc that he went through. And ultimately, John Mellencamp being his real name, but his label wanted him to be called Johnny Cougar, and he got them to add the Mellencamp at a certain point and then drop the Cougar later on. The more success he got, he was able to do that, and thank goodness that he's still around today doing what he does. Okay, so now with the passing of Mick Ralphs and doing a tribute to him and everything, and one of the albums that I talked about within that I enjoyed that was a later era of his was the Company of Strangers album from 1995, and this had Robert Hart as the lead vocalist, and he actually do one additional album with them, Stories Told and Untold, which had half new studio, or well, it's all studio, but half new songs, half old songs, but done acoustically. So Robert Hart did 2 albums with them, and I've been a fan of Robert Hart's for quite some time. A while back, actually I think it was over the pandemic, I got this album here called Pure. I did a review of it. It's very AOR melodic rock, but on a pop edge. Was a little bit jarring because it doesn't sound anything like Bad Company, but it ended up being a favorite of mine after I could kind of let go of what I expected it to be. Just turned out to be a good album. So I've had him in my mind for quite some time, and when Mick Ralphs passed, and looking into all the different offshoot projects and Bad Company related and this, that, and the other thing, one of the things I did was pull out this album here, Lone Rider, Sundown, which has Simon Kirke, drummer for Bad Company, on it. And we've also got other people like Steve Overland singing from FM, and we've got, the bass player from Thunder I know is on here, and Steve Morse, the guitar player who played with Ian Gillan Band, Export, and a number of others. So I'm going through and I'm looking at all that sort of related stuff, and I find out that Lone Rider has another album called Down in the Dust. This is a brand new album, I believe from 2024, out on Escape Music. And we've got Chris Childs was the bass player, who is from Thunder, but Steve Overland, Steve Morris, Chris Childs, Simon Kirke, and Steve Mann on organ, doing another fantastic album in the vein of Bad Company. Essentially, Lone Rider, we've got the debut album, the second album, and now third album from Lone Rider, basically continuing on with the sound of Bad Company, post Bad Company, because they sort of came to an end in 2019. And while I was looking at this album on the Escape label, I found out Robert Hart has another album. This, in fact, being his 4th solo album. So this one here, Pure, was his 3rd. And then we get this one here, and this one is much more in line with the whole Bad Company sound of everything. So players on this, let me pull out the liner notes and just confirm, and also just very cool in that came with an autograph inside. Wasn't something that I was trying to get or was being promoted or knew about. And that's the same case with a couple other of these that I have. The Lone Rider, in fact. So on here we've got Steve Morris on lead guitar, Steve Mann on keyboards, Robert Sowell also on lead guitar, and we've got Harry James on drums, and all the songs on here are written by Steve Overland of FM. So Robert Hart doing Bad Company style music written by Steve Overland and played by those guys just sounded like the right thing for me, and it just proved to be that. It rocks from start to finish. The first 2 tracks on here, Overdrive and Stoneheart, you can't get any better than that. So you can stream this album, and I'm pretty sure you can stream the brand new one of this too. But check these two albums out, Lone Rider and the solo album from Robert Hart. Very good. If you're looking for more of the Bad Company style music, that's where it's at. Now, I mentioned Steve Overland, and I have had in my collection in the past these three FM albums, the first two albums that they did, and then this one, which was called Taking It to the Streets. This is out on Crescendo, and this one, the 2 for On 1, is a BGO Records label. So I've had these, but I have to say, they never really clicked with me. And I would say, I don't know when it was, maybe not even a year ago, but Kings of Mercia came out. Debut album, which I didn't get at the time. I found out when they had announced their second album. And so I went and got the first one, and that has Jim Mathos on guitar from Fates Warning and Steve Overland singing. And I was absolutely blown away by how great that was. It made me sort of investigate Steve Overland. And I checked out some of the other stuff, including that Lone Rider. But I hadn't gotten back to FM. But now with all of this here and finding it, I pulled out these two albums that I had, or, packagings, because 3 albums total. And I immediately fell in love with it. So, of course, I had to get their latest album from 2024, Old Habits Die Hard. And they've got another new one coming out that they just announced, a brand new one called Brotherhood. So it's kind of the right time for me to be getting into them, because I pulled out some old stuff. I ended up picking up this release from last year. And at the same time I'm buying this, I'm hearing that a brand new album is coming out. And I think part of it was I had always thought of or expected FM to be like a glam metal band. And when they weren't, that was disappointing, not really understanding that that wasn't who they were. They were an AOR melodic rock band. And if I listened to them as that, I probably would have enjoyed them a lot more, a lot sooner. So it's really just kind of a shifting of my mentality on the band. And when I wanted that style of music, it fit perfectly. So when I was looking for more of that blues rock sound of Bad Company, FM fit in perfectly. And I was glad to pick this one up and have it. I've got another new one on the way, 13, so you'll see that next week when I'm putting this together, because that one's due in a day or two and I can't wait for it. And I've got a whole host of other things. I did a mega order off of eBay from this one guy, 9 CDs. They just had all these great European label releases that are normally twice as much money if I try to order it direct or on Amazon or something like that. And this guy's, local, meaning in the US on the East Coast, and he had really great deals on it. So I've got all that stuff coming. I can't wait for it. And of course, you should see it in next week's, because I think when I've ordered from this guy in the past, it's only taken about a week for me to get this stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that. All right, the last one for me to talk about here is a group called Brinker. And this is alloy rock, and Brinker, named after the drummer Ray Brinker, would go on to do some session work and stuff. And he's played with Joe Cocker and Pat Benatar, and I forget who else, but a number of well-known artists. But that wasn't the reason that I picked this up. It's for this guy right here, Andy Timmons, the guitar player who would go on to play with Danger Danger. So while this doesn't sound like Danger Danger style music, meaning it is not that glam metal sort of poppy stuff that is, this is more AOR melodic rock style stuff. But it came out in 1985. It was a cassette only release, and now finally making a CD debut here on the Melodic Rock Classics label that's been getting out a number of great things. Last week or the week before, I showed you Trillion 3, Ray of Light, and Goliath, 2 things that label put out. Something that they put out a while back was the Don Barnes, Guitar Player of 38 Special, his solo album in 2017. So that label has slowly been dropping things and getting things out, but it seems like they've really ramped up to getting things out and doing a number of, archival releases, and Trillion and the Goliath, Brinker, and a whole bunch of other ones, because I just recently saw a number of different releases from the label that I'm going to need to dive into on a much deeper level in order to try to figure out and understand who these artists are, why they're being reissued, whether or not it's worth something for me to check out and get. But so far, everything that the Melodic Rock Classics label has done, I've been very, very happy with. The Van Stevenson releases that have come out, and add to it now this, where I find Andy Timmons had something before Danger Danger. So that was a really cool find and a great thing to add, especially while I've been into the type of music that I've been into. And so while maybe not as many as I normally get, I do feel like these 6 things here that I picked up over this past week have been, quite good in what it is, and definitely tied me over, because I was really tied into this Robert Hart and Lone Rider releases, and I spent a lot of time digging deep into that sort of stuff and digging back into my own music catalog. And hopefully, if nothing else, like I said, even if you don't get turned on to any of the new things, if you just go, hey, wow, I haven't pulled out some John Mellencamp for a while, or FM, or maybe I just want to pull out some Bad Company, whatever it might be, that's sort of the point of these kind of episodes and these shows that I do. And that's the best that I could hope for, to either turn you on to something new or to remind you about something great that you've already got in your catalog. But there you go. That's this episode of New Music Finds. I hope you enjoyed it. Do check back every Wednesday when I post a brand new episode to show you what it is that I've got and where it is that I've been going musically and my musical journey. And again, thank you all for coming along on that. And thank you for helping me reach 30,000 subscribers on this channel. It really is much appreciated. All right, everyone. Take care. Have a good one. And I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.